All right, so this is my second talk at the meeting. Thank you, HF, for inviting me. I'm Eytan Debbi from HSS. I guess my last session was talking about pre-surgical coding for optimization. Now I'm talking about post-op monitoring. I know sounds like I may be a physician assistant, but I promise you I'm a surgeon, and the fellows did visit me, right? So I do operate, but I guess they don't want to hear about my surgical skills. They really want to hear about all this monitoring stuff. So we'll talk about some post-op stuff. And I would encourage you all during this is to kind of think about where we're going from here, what you want to see in your patients post-operatively, what's important to you. Some disclosures completely unrelated to this talk, but I do have a PhD in mechanical engineering and biomechanics, so my passion is really patient function, gait analysis, and I would say with anterior hips, really high-level function, and I think we're just not there yet exactly. So let's talk about remote patient monitoring, what it is now, and I think where we're going in the future is probably more important. So remote patient monitoring is not necessarily an orthopedic term, right? This goes for everything, cardiology, nephrology, everything we can do in terms of monitoring patients not in the office, right? And I think we've been seeing this for years now, even before COVID, but especially after COVID. How can we treat our patients without actually seeing them, right? So we're talking about basically blood pressure monitoring, glucose monitoring, and I think really the industry is booming and will continue to boom, right? So it's a huge amount of money out there in terms of this remote patient monitoring as it goes for all patients in all fields. I guess when we go into digital health, right, we all know telehealth. I won't go into telehealth, right? To me, this is basically phone calls, right? So phone call, calling your patients. We have some virtual visits, I would argue, they're here or there, and there's a real problem now. Now, I think CMS is thinking about basically uncoding these bills so that you won't be able to actually bill for these visits, which is a challenge. I think now that we've gotten used to that, but kind of a discussion for another time. So remote patient monitoring, RPM, what is this? It's a digital health solution that captures and records patient data outside the traditional healthcare environment. And at least for us, that's normally post-operative recovery when it comes to joint replacement, and in particular hip replacement. When we look at outside of orthopedics, there's been a lot of studies on this, especially in cardiology, home blood pressure monitoring, pretty basic stuff. You're seeing sustained effects for up to 24 months without, outside remote monitoring. Is it overdue or overused? I would argue it's probably underused in orthopedics and overdue, but I would also argue you'll be seeing some technology today that I think is just really scratches the surface in terms of what we want to see in our patients. There is a revenue opportunity. We talked about this in terms of pre-op optimization. These are the codes if you're going to do this post-operatively. In our shop, we've had a little bit of a challenge in terms of actually implementing this because it's a really difficult, many times we do surgery and we kind of forget about the patient in a weird way, and it's hard for our office, and at least in my office, to continue to focus on monitoring patients post-operatively. So much effort is the pre-op and then OR, and then post-op they maybe anterior hips just do so well, right? But I think there is that challenge, but there is some revenue opportunity to explore and be aware of. Let's talk about hip replacement. We did a systematic review in my research group looking at functional assessment and total hips and what's out there today. Wearables are kind of the most frequently mentioned. They're cost-effective for remote patient monitoring. The accuracy and clinical impact, however, is potentially questionable. If we divide this based on Dr. Scuderi and Danoff's work, right, it really kind of falls into three buckets. There's the telemedicine engagement, patient engagement bucket that's in the center. To me, the exciting stuff there is AI opportunities and chatbots and ways that patients can communicate without speaking to an MD or a person at all, right? Then there's the wearable bucket. We'll talk about that because that's really kind of what we think about when it comes to remote patient monitoring. We'll also talk about some smart devices and smart implants and kind of where they are today. Wearables, I think some of us are probably wearing an Apple Watch now. I wore the Whoop monitor for a while. It told me I don't sleep enough and that I'm always tired and I should be sleeping more, and then I threw it out because I knew that already. And I think there is some potential data, but I don't know how worthwhile it is. There's step length, gait velocity, heart rate variability. I think that's important to keep in mind. To me, I was monitoring and I realized that if I use the pneumatic gun, I'm just not as strong as George Hedekevich. I do get tired if I don't use the gun, and the activity levels. But I think high-level activities it does not capture. There's also these range of motion sensors that we can place on a patient's body, kind of capture some range of motion. I think in knee replacement, there may be some role. I think in hip replacement, it's a little bit of a challenge in terms of keeping it accurate and relevant to what we want. I don't think we're all kind of waiting for some range of motion target on our hip replacement patients. Maybe we should, maybe that used to be a thing, but I think some of the data is a little bit lacking in terms of what it helps, in terms of decision making. Patient interest is there, however, right? They want something like this. They feel that there is involvement in decision making when they're wearing this stuff. They like the accessibility for virtual engagement and remote monitoring. 90% were interested in this data collection. This was more in younger patients and more in women. I'm not sure why. Some were more hesitant about implanted devices, right? They didn't really get very excited about long-term implant data, but they all wanted some sort of greater engagement. And I think this is obviously something that we can see, especially in younger patients who just don't want to come to see the doctor. They're going to work, they have other things to do, they got kids at home, and they just wanted this all monitored at home. What was important to patients was movement balance, sleep, and cardiac output. So those are some of the criteria. 92% reported that technology relatively easy to use, and most hip replacement patients felt that this could replace their in-person assessment. Not necessarily the case with knee replacement patients. I think that's something, if you do both in this room, I think you can understand why. But some hip replacement patients can say, well, I don't really want to come back in. Like, do I need to? And you're like, well, show me a photo of your wound and you're good to go. But I think we don't really know how well that patient's doing. So we talked about the wearables, some of the data. Generally, remote patient monitoring leads to higher preoperative steps, faster recovery. Monitoring those patients helps. Younger patients we see have more steps per day. Anterior approach, more steps per day than posterior approach. And we see higher levels of activities in patients discharged home, and that helps us make decisions. There could be, however, some inaccuracies depending on positioning of devices. Did you strap your Apple Watch to the dog? Did someone play with it? You know, my son's walking around with my phone all day. Does that mean he's walking faster than I'm walking? The technology potentially is feasible, but some of the efficacy can be questionable. But there is some good data out there in joint replacement, lower odds of visiting an ED if you're using these. Abnormal vitals or captures, lower readmissions, and overall patients are happy with it. And I think outside of orthopedics, this is really the only randomized trial, which is exciting, showing a significant reduction in rehospitalization rates. And I think this is something, this is in orthopedics. This is the one showing that in orthopedics and hip and knee replacement, there's a lower rehospitalization rate using remote monitoring, which is obviously a really important factor. There's also smart braces out there. I think these, in addition to some of the spatiotemporal parameters, they get those range of motion data. I probably don't recommend placing a brace around the hip for a hip replacement, but there's stuff out there that's worth looking at and will capture a little bit more motion. This is obviously in knee replacement. Smart implants, really the one that we have here on the market is for knee replacement. I'm sure you've all seen this. I'm sure this is coming in hip replacement. The real question is what data is this? To me, the big question is, what's the zero, right? It can give relative motion. I wonder really where you're going to put the zero mark on different patients and where we're going to put this in hip replacement. So when we think about innovation, I think things are coming and we can kind of predict what we should do with that data. If you really want to look at remote patient monitoring, what should be looked at, you can look at the AMA website. Chatbots, this is one I think, when we think about remote monitoring, we may not be thinking about this stuff, but for us in our shop, we're now using this Eytan technology. I believe it was presented at AHF at some point. This is basically right now, we're using this on research purposes, but this comes in two formats. Patients can actually chat with a system about their hip replacement or knee replacement. It's surgeon specific, so I upload all my kind of recommendations and what I want to do and when I remove the dressings, what all this stuff I do, and patients can kind of query this. And now we have actually phone lines. Patients can call in at all hours, right, 24/7, and kind of chat to their heart's content with an AI chatbot, which patients have said has been extremely beneficial to them, and obviously has offloaded our office as well. There is room for doing this post-operatively. We're not there yet, but imagine where we could be, right, if suddenly you have your patients calling in and speaking with an AI chatbot about certain things that are important to you as a clinician, and it capturing that and calling the office or telling the patient to call the office if there's an issue, or congratulating them and letting us know they're doing really, really well. So to me, this is really exciting technology and something we're actively working towards as well. So I think what matters, this is maybe me on my high horse, but as an engineer, motion analysis is critical, right? I think we know that some patients just may not be achieving those high functioning levels, right? We saw George's slide of the golf swing. Well, it doesn't make your golf swing better potentially. You may not impinge and dislocate, right? But we have to figure out, is that high level golfer getting a golf? Is, grandma shopping? Is she continuing to shop, right? Everyone's different. And I think we know that some patients are still lacking some of that stuff. It may be less in anterior hip replacements, but I think it's something when we kind of decide what is a success really matters. In our systematic review, basically gait and motion labs were kind of the gold standard. The most important things when we looked at randomized trials in terms of patient function are gait analysis, right? And we're just not getting that with your Apple Watch, right? It's just not the same kind of thing. And measuring these activities are just lacking, right? Everyone's different. I talked about different function and what you want. If any of you here had a hip replacement, in general, you would assume you'd go back to where you are now, if not better, right? Most patients want to be better, but what does that mean, right? Did you walk the same speed? I don't think speed and gait velocity are really giving those answers to us today. This is our motion analysis at HSS, obviously very high tech, obviously something we can't do not only in our office, but let alone around the country, right? So this is something that patients can't take home with them, right? So it's my dream and ambition in our research lab is to figure out a way that we can kind of bring this first to the office and second, hopefully at home. That's where we're working. So full gait analysis, not ideal for in-office or remote monitoring, but to me gives us that potential for really assessing patient function. This is my office. We have a gait mat. All our patients walk the gait mat. They all wear these sensors. These are accelerometers. This is not a patient of mine. This is one of our research assistants. They go up and down the stairs. We measure their motion, how fast they go up and down the stairs. We measure how much weight they put on one leg or the other, and their hip range of motion during these activities. We do sit-stand activities, so we do a time up and go, but also we do these measurements, and this is in the office. And to me, this is giving us a lot of good data, right? It's still research purposes, but it's our dream to really kind of expand this for all patients. But it's difficult. There is some difficulty in doing this. But our goals are to understand what functional motion parameters mean for a patient's successful outcome, right? So that's patient to themselves, right? So someone comes in, we measure their gait and how they walk, and then we measure them afterwards, right? And we could do that at home or some further clinic or a gait lab, outside the office, right? To figure out, are they meeting those criteria? Are they succeeding beyond that, right? And developing some remote capabilities. For us, this is probably the most exciting stuff for us. This is kind of where we're going. And I'm gonna see if it clicks through. It may not. Give me 1 second. So these are markerless analyses now, right? So this is the Thea system that we have in our shop. We just kind of purchased this, right? There's no markers on this patient, or it's not patient, this is kind of my partner. So he's one of the other surgeons in the lab. So, there's no markers on this individual. To us, this is where the future lies, right? Markerless ability to assess patient function, and it can be done with some applications on an iPhone. Right? So we want to be able to assess patient function, whether they're jumping, running, swinging a golf club, right? Throwing a football, playing with their grandkids, right? Suddenly we can start thinking beyond simple gait or where your step count, which I argue is probably not going to be a big variable when we consider patient function. To me, this is the future. To me, if I can have this in my office and have this patient analyzed before they even see me in the hallway off to my office, that would be great. Can they set up their iPhone at home and do this at home one day? That would be even cooler, right? But it's our job to define what is a successful outcome. So I think I have my work cut out for me, but this is a disruptive technology event. Think about where we can go from here. So in conclusion, there are many technologies available for remote monitoring. I think that you could bill for them, and I think it helps, and I think it gives us a better insight in terms of seeing what the patients do at home. But I think they only scratch the surface of understanding functional outcomes after joint replacement, and in particular hip replacement, where I think patients demand a little bit of a higher functional activity. I think knee replacement can be a little bit of a different argument. But in terms of our anterior hips, it'd be great to kind of show some of this data. Clinical utility is still being investigated, and for us, we want to see what can be measured remotely, how does this data impact patient function and decision making, and how does it correlate with patient satisfaction. I think one thing we have a problem with is that right now patients kind of click off these patient satisfaction surveys. They hate them. They always talk about how much they hate them, and I don't really know even who's asking them all the questions. It's really the hospital. But they've become the gold standard in what payers use to assess our success as surgeons. To me, we got to figure out a way to move on from this to using functional outcomes for monitoring patients after surgery. Thank you.